Welcome to the Be Well Now Method podcast. My name is Janet Holtz. I'm a clinical exercise physiologist, and my dear friend and partner in crime here many times on the podcast is Dr. Jan Anderson. Dr. Jan Anderson is a clinical psychologist, but she also has a business background. So she brings a very real world approach to psychology. And so we just have so much fun with this brain body connection and this whole person
Yeah.
approach to taking the stress out of health habits. So welcome, Dr. Jan. So good to see you again.
Yeah, it's good to be back and pick
Thank
up on
you.
that thread that we left with last
Yeah.
time, which you can
Yeah.
probably say better than I can.
What I love is that when we're recording this, we're just doing conversations and this is how we talk. So when you're listening, you're hearing how we talk about things. And this is how we decided to do the podcast. We thought we just talk about things and it seems to make a lot of sense. But what came out of that conversation at the end was that when you're talking about blind spots to success, and you were talking about being on a GLP-1 and weight loss can be that success measure, but you found this kind of non-scale victory of being able to do more and do specific things that might not show up on the scale, and the scale actually can blind you from that success. And so there's these blind spots to being successful with something like weight loss. But then at the end, we were talking about how when you close your eyes, you can see the blind spot better, which is so ironic, right? That it's the things that we see that are actually getting in the way and creating blind spots, meaning the scale, the console on the elliptical, your watch, your mirror. What other things am I thinking of that you can see that create blind spots? Anything else come to you
Yeah,
with that?
yeah. It's always fun to be paradoxical.
Yeah.
It's only when you close your eyes can you really see,
Yeah.
or the blind spots are evident, you know. Uh, yeah, but that's very true. So you want to pick up on that? Do you want to go more into that today, or what's
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
thought
I'd love
about
to
that?
dive into that because I think that's sometimes hard to wrap our head around. Our culture is very much about those things that we see. They give us feedback. We've got activity monitors and we've got all of this feedback coming in about how we're sleeping and how we're moving and how we're eating and lots of feedback, which is great. Technology is great. I love it. It can really be a helpful biofeedback mechanism.
Yes.
But what I find is that we get lost in terms of what it's all really about. I've been working in weight loss, for 20 years, and getting on that scale can make or break someone's day. And
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how great they're feeling. The typical response is, oh, I'm not losing weight. My weight's stuck. And I say, well, how are you feeling? Well, I'm feeling great. I'm out of pain because I'm
Yeah.
exercising and I'm sleeping better and I have more patience with my kids. And they list all of these great things that are happening because they're exercising, but they still categorize it as failure because they're not losing weight. It's not working, so to speak, even though they're listing
Wow.
all these great things that are working and they really are the whole reason why they want to lose weight anyway. But the scale is blinding them from seeing that they're actually getting what they really want from
Yeah.
from
That is an
exercising and eating healthier. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you
It's
could have
fascinating.
given a better example of a blind spot
Yeah.
that somehow, oh my goodness. Yeah. And the example I was giving was last time was being at the gym where I work out with weight machines, and how I dropped my clipboard. Hey, because I am tracking, you know,
Yes,
so
right.
actually, but again, it's really important to argue this both ways because it is a both and thing, that
Mhm.
the quantifying of things
Yeah.
and tracking can be so helpful, you
Mhm.
know? So
Yeah.
there I am. I have the clip. I want the date that I came, what machines did I work out on, and then, what was the weight setting or the reps or whatever. It's helpful to track that. But now I'm going to argue the other side of it. That's both.
Mhm.
And how, to me, the non-scale victory was when I dropped my clipboard and stuff behind one of the machines, and I had to thread my way back through the machine to pick it up, and how it's like, this is it. This is what I've been wanting, to be able to move agilely, more
Yeah.
gracefully,
Right.
you know, and move in
Yeah.
ways in real life to do the things I need to do.
Yeah.
It's just like, wow, this is really it. I just
Yeah.
thought it was so laughable that day. It's not the machines or how long I worked out, or, it's like that was that moment,
Mm.
that aha moment when, like, this is it. This is what I want.
So how did you know that that's what you want? How did you know that's what you wanted and how that you had it? Kind of a
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I would say when I first started working with you, again, your methodology, one of the things that's unique about it is it does really help you focus on what you want more in that way. In some of those, you might call it non-scale ways, or that, that's how you're really going to know. So I guess I'd lead off with that. But also, going through that process with you, it is identifying this is what feels really bad of
Mm,
not being able to move around, you know, and feeling good about it. That it's clunky, it's awkward, it's just it doesn't feel smooth and easy,
yeah.
and I would like that back. So, is that answering your question though?
Yes. Yeah. So it sounds like connecting what you want to how you feel
Yes.
rather than what you'll see
Yes.
or not rather than. I
Yes.
like how you're doing and or in addition to what you see.
Yes.
Yeah.
And actually I want to focus in on that for a moment too though, that I think it's also a blind spot to try to blind ourselves, or to me, I would call it be in denial, that
Mm,
some of these external measures, they do matter. It does matter how you look in your clothes, not just how you feel in
mhm.
them, you know?
Yeah.
But I think that's so important to emphasize because then it puts you in this whole world of pretending that that doesn't matter. And our brains are too wired to be a social species for it to not matter, how we appear, how we're connecting with other people in that
Mhm.
way.
Yeah. So meaning what you see in the mirror is an external, but it has a connection to other people, and that's an innate need in and of itself. So
Well, I
your ability to
remember,
present yourself in a way that allows you to connect with other people more easily, maybe. Is that what you're
yes,
saying?
yes. And I remember, kind of when I guess maybe when around or right before the anti diet movement started, that one of it's kind of one of the dark underbelly of that, I think, was that you were supposed to just like how you are and you don't care what anybody thinks. And, you just, you're embracing this larger you. So there's the healthy, positive side of that. But one of the ways I heard it described is so now you had to pretend like you didn't want to lose weight or you didn't care, that there was a lot of investment in that. And there's kind of like a false pretense to that or something. But to me, that can be just as destructive as being overly focused on weight and body image.
Yeah. It's
Does
still a
that make
blind spot.
sense?
Yeah, because you're still blinding yourself from what you feel.
That's right. You're still
Yeah.
disconnected with how you feel. You're still judging it and trying to push it in some, control it, force it into some place that's yeah,
Yeah.
it's not in concert with being in contact with yourself
Yeah.
and your physical
Yeah.
body.
So how do you bridge that gap between what you see and what you feel? What do you do in your, health efforts and all of that? How do you bridge that gap between the external and the internal? Or how do you help your clients do that?
The first thing that I think of when you say that is how to some extent, just from my yoga background,
Yeah.
different yoga systems, some like for you to do things with your eyes open, or, or whatever, but it is true, or meditation even, you're closing your eyes. So it does put you in a different place of taking in sensory information, I guess I'd say. So, but then even when I would go to, like when I'm doing my weight training with the machines, a lot of times my eyes are closed or I'm in that half, there's a meditation term for it, but your eyes are half closed, but
Yeah.
your focus is really on your core or
Yeah.
your body, but you're paying close attention. It's not looking around or, trying to be distracted by music. I'm not listening to a podcast while I'm working out. So that is one of the ways of getting more in touch. And
Yeah.
then also, even when I'm in a group class now, or yeah, certainly in a group class, I'm not looking in the mirror. I'm not looking at other people. I'm doing the best I can to
Mm.
not be overly connected or concerned with what the other person is doing. So it is kind of like just coming into your own little place versus being too outwardly focused and concerned about how you're looking or what everybody else is doing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really a practice. And it is mindfulness, right? It's mindfulness as being present, but not just paying attention. It's doing that with this open, curious, and kind way of taking things in so that whether you're closing your eyes and taking in what you feel, or you're looking around you and noticing the thoughts that you have about what's happening around you or what you're seeing, it allows you, the bottom line is connecting with what you feel in your body and trusting it as your best guide. That's really the bottom line, is not
Yeah,
distrusting it, not thinking that it's bad or not trustworthy.
yeah. And just hearing you say that, another thing that comes to mind is when you're operating this more, I just would call it a more peaceful way. Well, actually, I was going to say something back to when I was teaching yoga classes. The way I like to present it to my students was you're going to look at other people and compare yourself.
Mhm.
Don't judge yourself for that.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is just natural what we
Mhm.
do, but we're also doing our best. Don't overemphasize, don't pump it up. We're
Mhm.
already going to do at plenty. We will be plenty comparing, competitive, all of that. And I think that's why there's research that shows when, especially women, it seems, when you watch too much Facebook or whatever, you actually get depressed. It's
Yes.
because of that comparing thing.
Yeah.
But I'll even
Yeah.
take it another step further that I think is interesting. With the people that I am around in group classes, there is a different energy, or
Mhm.
I guess what I hope is happening, kind of
Yeah.
what I sense is happening, is I'm in a different mindset. And I guess what I
Mhm.
would call it less of a need to compete and impress.
Mm.
You know,
Your focus is not out there trying to keep up with everyone else.
really what I'm trying to do is be really peaceful and
Mm.
enjoy what I'm doing. So just I guess some of the connections I'm forming with people in the class that are just kind of organic, just becoming friendly
Yeah.
or, having interactions, it feels very easy and natural. In other words, there's more of a connection, but I
Yeah.
think it's because I'm more peaceful.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think I'm just easier to talk to or
Yeah.
approach because I'm not coming in with that it is
Right.
it's just, I guess, what you would call it, the competitor's mindset,
Yeah. Yeah.
or
And
or
yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
the I need to impress you with, look what I can do,
Yeah.
or look at how I look.
Yeah.
It's disconnecting from other people. So it's almost like, so I guess the bottom line of what I'm saying is when you get more connected to yourself, even though your eyes are closed, it may look like you're not really
Mhm.
present. I think it's helping me connect better
Yeah.
with the people around me.
Yeah.
Is that not insane?
That's amazing. And what I find is interesting is that we know this in other areas, right? We know this in relationships. We know it in workplaces. Like we know all of this and we apply it more easily, I think, to other places. But I think when it comes to especially exercising, there's this underlying current of competitiveness, thinking that that's motivating comparison to other people. And then you have to distract to push to be able to be better than somebody else, or you have to disconnect from your body so that you can push harder so that you can be better. And it's so
Yeah,
interesting how we really think that disconnecting from our body is going to improve the way our body functions when really exercise is about connection. It's practice, and that's brain, body, heart connection. Exercise, the word itself means to practice, and to practice means to connect the nerve fibers with what you're doing in a way that you can do it with
interesting.
more ease, right? Like any other
Yeah,
practice is something that you're doing to connect that muscle memory to make that action easier and more automatic. But if we're disconnecting from what our body is telling us and from the moment, and we're disconnecting even from our thoughts, We're not really doing quality practice.
Yes, and I'll add in one more both and thing that occurs
Yeah.
to me
Yeah.
with what you just said is, the now I just lost my train of thought. I'm gonna
It'll
have
come
to
back.
wait for it to come back.
It'll come back.
So, yeah, okay, yes, and usually if I just pause and wait, and it actually doesn't matter because I do trust these days it will come back,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
But if it doesn't, we just go on to something else. I take a sip of water.
Okay. I'll go back to what you said about, unless you want to just take a pause and we can just
When
be
it comes
quiet.
back, I'll interrupt, I'll break
You know
in.
what? Well, you know what I realized that we didn't do at the beginning of the podcast, which I usually like to do, is a little meditation. So maybe we could just
Yes,
take this opportunity or invitation to just pause, all of us right now,
that's
and
perfect.
close our eyes, right? And just feel, just be, just let yourself be, feel what's here and allow it to be here without having to jump in to fix it. Get curious. What does your body know right now? What are your thoughts saying? Notice what's important to you right now. Just take in what your brain is thinking, what your body's feeling, and what your heart knows has meaning. Let yourself simply observe all that's here. Just letting it be what it is, whether it's chaotic and noisy in there or peaceful and quiet. Let it be what it is. It's that little curious, kind pause to notice how much is happening inside right now. Taking a little pause before trying to fix anything. So one way to keep your attention in your body is to move to create a little more sensation in your body. So you can allow whatever energy is there to create some movement. Maybe it would feel good to do a big stretch or just stay with the sensation of that movement. Not trying to get anywhere or make anything happen. Just move to feel more present in your body. To our breath and back to the room and just allow whatever's happening inside to just be there.
And it did come back.
It came back. Magic.
Yes, this is what it was. To me, this is another both and I learned from Dr. Judd Brewer, the bigger, better offer. But what I think of is for other people who aren't doing it that way,
Mm,
I guess I would say in the old days, in the way in which I would do my training, I'll probably scan around and look at, you're not doing that right.
hmm.
you know, or if you really knew what you were doing, you would be coordinating your breath with that movement or, whatever it
Yeah,
is. But,
sure.
the way I like to do it now, and it is so much more peaceful, is hey, if somebody's showing up and they say something like, well, I have to make myself calm, but once I'm here,
Mm,
I'm glad I'm here, or, I always feel better when I leave. It's like, I don't need to mess with that.
mm,
In other words, both can be okay. To
yeah.
me, always my pitch is always, what if there was something even better?
Mm,
We don't have to make what somebody else is doing wrong or bad,
right.
and here, let me help you improve or do it right.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm glad you're here. You know,
Mm,
I mean, there's
yeah.
something working here,
Yeah.
you know, and then but it would open the door if anyone ever was interested. Then I
Mm,
could share my thing. But
yeah.
that's really different than, let's just say, if somebody's happy with what they're doing, why would I want to go in and judge that or try to fix or change, or I'm superior, I have something better. It's
Yeah.
like, no, but I can imagine that there might come a time where somebody would be interested in, like, what the hell are you doing there? That's kind of different or interesting, or
Yeah.
how do you do it, or whatever. But it's being solicited, or there's interest or curiosity that I can address versus being smug and superior.
Yeah. So I like what you said before about that our first response will be competitiveness. And I think that kind of smug, superior internal space that we have that we can kind of beat ourselves up or judge what we're saying or doing. So we could get caught in that loop of, I don't want to go. I struggle to get here. I wish I was one of those people who just loves exercising, but I got myself here, so I did it. But we can still beat ourselves up over that. And I think that just recognizing that our first response will likely be criticism, either internally or externally, and not
Hmm.
continuing that loop, but getting out of it through curiosity. Yeah, I
Yes.
find that the more I practice mindfulness, and especially mindful movement, because I feel that it wires mindfulness into my body, it makes it easier. I'm practicing it. It is easier to just let people be, right? And whatever they're doing, let it be. Um, we've talked about this, but I know my first response, oftentimes, and in the past, it's been stronger, is I get so agitated when I see somebody doing something based on misinformation about exercise. And I
Yes.
realized why I get so agitated and angry is because it's hurting them unnecessarily.
Yes.
And so the root cause of that is that I don't want people to be hurting unnecessarily. I see them suffering for no reason at all, except for that it's just misinformation. So I had to kind of separate that, right? And pull that apart a little bit and say, like, where is that coming from? And use curiosity to say, gosh, that's so interesting. Why do I get so mad? I'm not mad at that person. I'm mad at
Yes.
the fact that there's all this misinformation out there that makes people unnecessarily in pain and suffering and feeling bad about themselves. And that was really, it was
Yes.
coming from
Yes.
that root of kindness, but it was coming out as anger. And it wasn't until I
Yes.
got curious to recognize that, you know,
Yeah. What a great insight. And it's like well, here's another thought. I know what it is. I didn't have coffee. I'm sorry.
shoot,
I am not
I wish I,
caffeinated. That is the problem. Yes.
okay, rule number one, only do podcasts after coffee.
Yes. It's like, well, again, I'm not a morning person.
Right. Yeah.
I've learned
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And I'm not as, it
Yeah.
takes a while. It's
Yeah.
like I'm not kind of nonverbal in
Right.
the morning, for a while. My husband knows this now. So anyway, I'll have to wait for this other thing to come back. But since it's not here right now, I guess I'll just go back to this thing about, a key word that keeps coming up is peaceful. And I've noticed I've just seemed to have brought that up, or I've used
Yeah.
that word 2 or 3
Yeah.
times already in this podcast, which is kind of interesting. It wasn't by design,
Yeah.
but there is a peacefulness to it. Oh, and now I know what I was gonna say. So it's not just that you see that person hurting, it's painful for you to
Yeah.
see what
Yeah.
that person is doing, and
Yeah.
maybe they don't even know it,
Right.
but it's no wonder it gets you agitated because it's
Yeah.
hurting, it makes you hurt.
Yeah.
It's
And it,
painful for
right.
you.
It's painful because I think this is so unnecessary. It's
Yes.
so unnecessary. And I think I just want to fix it. And so, yeah, just sitting with that for a little bit and let it stew helps me to feel like, remember, oh, wait, okay, there's better ways to help somebody with this. I can kind of slow things down. And I think, like, when you say peaceful, I think what that does is it hijacks my brain and takes me to past future. There's so much junk out there and and I want to fix it and I want to make it better. And I love this saying, you can only find peace in the present moment. That's the only place we find peace. And I think
Mhm.
what this does is closing our eyes brings us to the present moment. Whereas the stuff that we're seeing is all about the future. It's all about kind of reaching some goal or being better than past and getting to the future. And we kind of
Yeah,
bypass the present moment when we're
good
stuck in
point.
these blind spots.
Yeah, good point. And, back to you're seeing someone, hurting themselves, whether they know it or not.
Yeah.
I think of, people that I am around. If someone is really, ingrained in that mindset,
Mm,
I'm just kind of, I guess I feel like what I can do is, well, certainly don't try to mess with that,
yeah.
let them be, but also be looking for opportunities for when is that person receptive or an
Yeah.
opening or just something that I can share, but it's not like trying to do like a testimonial
Yeah.
and, this fake kind of, but just kind of like sharing my own piece with where this is at. And I guess one other thing I would like to say, though, in one of my reflections in the past week or so, is this has been truly transformative. I
Mm,
mean, this has really changed me and my life and how I live it. And there was something that kind of prompted me to, like the old mindset or how, it's still out there. And I guess how distant it's starting to feel for
Mm.
me, and how incredibly thankful I am, because there is a lot of striving and suffering, caught up in that.
Yeah.
And well, you talk about a blind spot. It is blinding. And we're working so hard or trying so hard for something, and it's only taking us further away
It's so
from
paradoxical. Yeah.
it is. It is truly mysterious,
Mhm.
the way this works. And I think that's another way, though, if you do see an opportunity to kind of draw someone in, is that they're kind of like puzzling it, like, how does that working for you?
Yeah.
Like I guess I'll give you a quick example. A lot of times I'll go to a blow dry bar before I go work out,
Mhm.
and I'll tell, "Do you need hairspray? Do you need what's right?" Like, yeah, because I'm gonna work out after this. And they're like, "Really?" And I guess they think I'm gonna be sweating. It's like, why
Right.
would this woman come in and pay all this for her hair, and now she's gonna go work out and
Yeah.
ruin it all? But at least that plants the seed, though, that someday, or like one of the things I've just been able, oh, I'm not going to be sweating. This is not going to
Yeah.
be a sweat workout. you
Yeah.
know what I
Right. Which
do.
sounds like an oxymoron. Not sweat workout?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, but it's kind of like that is a lot of times where you create an opening with someone, is it does pique their curiosity.
Yeah.
It's puzzling,
Yeah.
it's confusing or confounding, and it's like, what?
There's
And
another
that
option?
creates, yeah, that,
Yeah.
hey, great, yeah, that creates the opening, and then you maybe just like kind of like share something, or it plants a seed.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. 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 I think the more we can wake people up to what they're getting from what they're doing, but in a very subtle way, just kind of curious. And it has to be in there because again, me saying it is an external thing, right? If I just say, which is how I started out my career, like, okay, let me tell you all the great stuff about exercise and you're going to want to change. And that's external. My
yes,
voice is external. My PowerPoint slides, all of that, my handouts, they were all external. They didn't mean anything until that person really felt it and really felt the difference for themselves. I might have made them aware to pay attention to it, but it wasn't until they felt it for themselves that they could really make changes.
yes. And here's something I would also like to toss in. I literally just recorded this video for an article I wrote, that'll be coming out soon. But it was basically, how do you reinvent yourself?
Mm.
And I gave 3 real life examples of how people reinvented themselves, how they changed something, that their usual strengths were not working. They had hit a wall and they had to find something different. And it's like, how do you do that? Because, our brain automatically resists any kind of change
Mm.
when it makes us feel like we're going to lose something, or
Mm.
something's going to be taken away. Like, "Oh, you can't be brash and bold anymore in your approach because people aren't liking that at your job. So stop that." You're like, no, actually, you want to keep that. It's not about subtraction, it's about expansion. We're
Mm.
just adding something new. And I feel like that in this vein that I'm in now, it's again, it does make you less judgmental.
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah.
And I love what you're saying too. There's something about that external. I'm trying to be motivating and I want to sell you on this idea. And I feel like that I'm so much more effective at promoting change with my clients
Yeah.
by not doing that.
Yes.
It's a
Yes.
whole different energy, but part of that peacefulness is we're not judging you or
Yeah.
what your approach. You need to keep that in your back pocket.
Mhm.
There's going to be a time when you will need that. So
Yeah.
don't press the delete button,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But what if we could find a way to make change not feel like loss,
And I love this
that
that you said,
we're not taking something away. And I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
no, no, go, keep going. Cause that's, yeah, keep going.
Okay, so anyway, one of my key points, I like to bring the neuroscience into this. And one of the key points I said is, what the neuroscientists tell us is that in that aha moment, let's just say when I was, kind of snaking my way through that weight machine to retrieve the clipboard, that was an aha moment. But it's only an aha moment when you feel something, that new neural pathway it's kind of what we can link now is when a new neural pathway forms, it's not just because you thought a thought different,
Yes.
you felt something different. And
Yes.
that's what really makes that synaptic plasticity work.
That's exactly it. That's why we love working together, because this brain body connection is, we think, oh, mind body, brain body, they're not separate. And then we think brain science, it's not separate. Neuroplasticity is the brain body connection. That's what it is.
Yes.
And I think that, and because I think, what I've seen is that exercise disconnects us from our body. Our typical approaches disconnect us, and dieting and all of that disconnects us. We have to do a lot of this feeling connected to eating and exercising, and even managing stress. Even meditating can be kind of a more cognitive experience, and we can disconnect from our body doing it.
Yes.
And this
Yes.
just adding something new, just to kind of tie it together, what you said about adding something new. And so change isn't that scary. What you're adding new is what you know right now in your body.
Yeah. Yes. It
Yeah.
was a whole different felt
Yeah.
sense
Yeah.
experience than, say, looking at a scale or filling out the
Yeah.
clipboard and with satisfaction or, it's not those aren't bad or wrong, but it's
I
like
think
there is no way those can compare with that feeling,
I think it's so funny
threading
that it
my
was
way
the
through the way.
clipboard, and what was supposed to be motivating was tracking, but it was really dropping the clipboard and what you knew in your body. I think that's so beautiful. I love it, because it's just
I do
such a
too.
great example of how, yeah, it's not those numbers that were on the clipboard. It was actually the clipboard falling and you noticing
Yes.
your body. And if you weren't aware, if you weren't already doing a mindful approach to strength training and weren't already paying attention to your body, you wouldn't have been paying attention when you picked up that clipboard, and you wouldn't have that big aha that led to even better, more motivation in the end,
Yes.
because you were paying attention to your body.
And that's why I love so much having these conversations with you, as I feel like it's just kind of a forum where I can share this information, but it strengthens it. And I see some connections, like with that video I was talking about that I hadn't even, I'm connecting it to what
Hmm.
we're talking about.
Yeah.
So it's just, yeah, I want to be on as much as I can.
Well, let's do another one tomorrow. I know. I wish we could do it every day. So good.
Yes. Let's get
Yeah,
really
this is great.
competitive about it. We're gonna do more of
Do
these and
more.
better than anybody else.
And let's measure our success on the analytics on Spotify. And I think,
Yes.
what I love is that we do this because we love doing it, because we just both feel this sense of connection to each other, but also
Yes.
connection to what we both know inside. And as that comes together, it's like this, like, yes, and yes. And
Yeah.
it's the combination, it's the connection that really gives it the power.
Yep. Yep. Don't wanna miss out. Looking
No.
forward to the next one.
Yes, me too, Jan. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. I
Okay.
hope you'll get some
Thank
coffee
you for
now.
having me. Yes,
Coffee
yes, I'll
time.
go do that right away.
Okay. I'll
Yeah.
see you next time. Thank you.
I'll see you next time. Okay.
Bye.
Bye now.